Hey guys, what's up? Unrested here, and I am stopping in real quick before I get started on a big canvas I'm about to do here for a client, because I made a promise to my viewers that I would review the movie The Forest. If you don't know, it's a 2016 horror movie release that came out back as far as January, so I'm already how many months late on that? January, February, March, 3 months late. Great. Really up-to-date reviews there, Scott. Thanks so much. Osoroshi fans asked me to do this, and I just want to let them know that yes, I am working on future Osoroshi. I'm actually, take a look here, I'm actually doing artwork for it right now. It's obviously incomplete artwork, but you know, I am putting stuff into the works. I do have stuff, I have projects on the way. I'm actually doing a series on real nightmares that people have had, and I've illustrated a lot of the nightmares to make it a little more interesting, exciting, better than just me talking in front of a camera type thing. Anyway, off topic. The Forest. The Forest. The Forest. How was it? Well, I wrote down some stuff as I was watching it so that I could do a quick review. I mean, right off the bat, it was, you know, a gaijin director, of course. It wasn't made in Japan by a Japanese person. I believe there's parts of it that were actually filmed in Japan, but you can tell quite a bit of it was not made in Japan. Like, there's like these weird basements where they go underground. You're like, yeah, no kind of basements like that exist in Japan. They're just not built that same way. Not that, you know, Western architecture doesn't exist in Japan. It does, but for the most part, there's a lot of original Japanese designs, just due to the fact that how they build around earthquakes and stuff like that. For example, very, very old buildings in Japan tend to not use nails. They fit together wood in a special way so that when an earthquake shakes the building, it doesn't break it down. Okay, so fantasy version of Japan. The director just made up his own sort of fantasy version of Japan. The movie starts out, this girl who has a twin sister has a feeling that that twin sister has gone missing. She checks in on her. Yes, of course, the sister has gone missing while she's been a teacher at an English school, not an English school, sorry, a high school in Japan. And I believe it might be an all-girls. Yeah, it's an all-girls high school in Japan. She wandered in the Aokigahara forest, also known as the Suicide Forest, and she hasn't returned since. And if people don't return after 48 hours, most times I think that those people have committed suicide, because Aokigahara kind of is the place for a lot of people to do that. If you want to learn more about Aokigahara, you can. Me making this whole entire video about Aokigahara would be pointless, as I've made multiple videos about Aokigahara at this point. I've even gone there myself. So you're actually getting a review by someone who not only lives in Japan, speaks Japanese, but has actually been to Aokigahara and is not just saying, I don't know if this movie got it right. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. It didn't. So even from the beginning, like, it's very strange. Like, she gets off at a train stop in Aokigahara to start looking for her sister, and she just, like, gets off at the station, walks across the tracks, totally illegal in Japan, by the way, and then just starts walking down a road and knows where to go to where there's a morgue in the middle of the woods where they collect dead bodies of people who've committed suicide in the woods. Kind of like a ranger station, but instead it's run by like a mama who, I say a mama, I mean not like a mama ya, or like a mama of a house. Like, how do I describe that? In Japan, so like if a woman runs a business, they're called the mama of the house. And she's the one who runs this place where they just collect the dead bodies and store them until people come to pick them up, by placing them underground in cold storage in kind of like a makeshift morgue. And what? Like, first of all, like, she gives you no kind of clue or exposition that she's even going to this, or that her sister is definitely dead, so why she's even going out there. Because even through the whole movie, her big thing is she's like, I'm a twin, and twins know when the other twin has died, and I don't feel like she has died. So why are you going to a morgue at the very beginning of the movie to find her dead body? Like, what? Like, did you read your own script? But this is like the most nitpicky part. It gets way worse than that. I mean, first off, even just when she gets to Japan, the way they portray Japan is just not the Japan anybody has ever been to or lived in. she goes to a sushi restaurant where they serve her live sashimi that's still moving in its shrimp, which, yeah, you could probably special order that if you were like this connoisseur of sashimi, but no gaijin would walk into a shop and the sushi chef be like, you know what, let me give him this totally fucked up meal. So that right there is just kind of crazy. And then while she's doing that, while she's like, ew, what the hell is this? It's like so moving and stuff. Oh my god. Then there's like these Japanese kawaii girls next to her like, tee the gaijin can't eat sashimi, ha 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 ha. And like, they're just, Japanese people just aren't even that mean. Like the average Japanese person would just kind of be like, oh yeah, that sucks. Yeah, she's probably not used to that. Like that's all they would be like. They wouldn't be like, tee, you so stupid gaijin. And then she gets into a taxi. A homeless person runs up to the taxi, slams his body against it and scares her. Homeless people don't act like that in Japan. I'm sure that probably has happened at some point. But for the most part, homeless people in Japan don't even ask you for money. They work. They actually work day in, day out, collecting cans to earn a little bit to eat a meal. They don't, but they're not aggressive. Like the. Okay, so like I said, a fantasy version of Japan. And there was just like so much more, like the Japanese people she meets are kind of like blunt with her and very rude and not willing to take care of a guest in their country, which is like the complete opposite of how the average Japanese person is. The Japanese tour guide she meets is kind of like, no, you cannot go into the forest and it is very, very bad because you are sad girl. And you're just like, oh, come on, man. Like, nobody would be like that big of a jerk. Like, they'd be like, look, I know you're worried about your sister. Why don't we let the police and a search party handle this? I'm just worried about you getting lost. They would not just be like blunt and cruel with the fact that you look like a very, very kanashi girl. You know, going in there. Okay, like it's just this totally unrealistic version of Japanese people. So there's that. I mean, there's just so many more things that you're just like, okay, like this isn't the Japan I live in. I don't know what this is like, Hollywood Japan. Which I mean, okay, it's a Hollywood movie. It's what I should expect, right, guys? Right? Am I being far too harsh already? Okay, so let me just kind of go through a list I wrote here. Fantasy version of Japan. Japanese talk about the forest with no problem. Yeah, that's another big no-no. Okay, just every Japanese person she meets in this movie is just like, oh yeah, Aokigahara, the suicide forest. Like, people totally kill themselves there. They're crazy people who do that. So sad and stupid. Like, first of all, like, even if Japanese people really did think that about people who went to the forest, they barely talk about the forest. They don't want to talk about Aokigahara. They don't want to talk about death a lot. In general, the average person doesn't want to, like, consume themselves with thoughts of death. And that's the way the Japanese are with Aokigahara. It's a dark place. It's kind of a taboo place. If you brought it up with the average Japanese person here in Japan, they'd be like, yeah, that's a pretty creepy place. Yep. Yeah, can we, like, not talk about that? Because it's like, I don't even like to talk about that place. Like, that's honestly how they act about it. Like, they're like, yeah, it's creepy. Probably some of the stuff you've heard is true about people going out there commit suicide. But can we, like, not talk about that? Because that is, like, super depressing. But in this movie, they're all just like, if you go there, all them ghosts are gonna trick your sad brain, and then you're gonna see illusions, because people who are sad and go into the forest are totally like, oh my god, ghosts are coming for me! Ah! So, it's just, you're just like, who are these people? Who talks like this in Japan? They keep calling them yurei, and they say, when a girl dies, she becomes a yurei. Well, actually, if you had done a little research, directors, a dead woman ghost is called an onryo. That's a vengeful woman ghost. Yurei is a large blanket classification for ghosts in general, but if you really want it to be like, because there's specifically one part where she comes to look for her sister at the school, and because she is a twin of her sister, all the girls at the school are like, Iyaya! Yobakekita! So like, they think a monster or a ghost has come to their school because they think it's her sister who died has come back because she's a twin. And she's like, what? I'm totally just a twin. Chill out. God, guys. And then there's this weird translation part where the principal of the school translates for the student who's like really aggressive towards the principal. Like the principal's like, she thinks a yurei is coming to get you. And the girl's like, Chigayo, a kote yurei! And she's like, I'm sorry, she thinks it's an angry ghost is coming to get you. And just like, dude, if you talk like that to Kocho Sensei in Japan, get ready to get your head smacked halfway across the room. You don't talk to the principal that way, especially at an all-girls private school. That girl would have been, like, drop-kicked into outer space. Like, anyway. Again, fantasy version of Japan. Okay. So they go into the forest. She meets this gaijin before she goes in there. He's like, hey, I'm a reporter, dude, and I, like, for reals, yo, I speak Peita Nihongo, and I totes like Benkyo Shita in America, because now I lives in Tokyo, and I'm like totes on the DL with the JJs, yo. And like his Japanese is just like the thickest American accent you've ever heard. It's like fucking Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift level. Like, sumimasen demo boku wa gaikokujin desu. And you're just like, fuck, man, you're killing me, dude. Alright, I mean, you know, yeah, fair enough. I can't expect everybody to come in with, you know, mega fluency. I shouldn't, you know, expect every actor to come in there. You know, Uma Thurman did her best with Kill Bill and stuff, and I mean, that was bad Japanese. But I really shouldn't be so harsh on that. I'm being very nitpicky. You can't, I guess, expect every single, how do you say? You can't expect every single actor that comes on to just like blow you away with fluency in every language of every type of movie that they act in. So I'm being harsh. I'm gonna take that one back. Can I take that one back? Oh, sorry, I put my hand in front of the camera. By the way, my camera about to die, so I had to plug it in. All right, so let's continue on. So they go into the woods. They're looking for her sister. She finds her sister's tent. And, you know, I guess spoiler alerts at this point if you're worried about a 3-month-old bad horror movie. And I'm spoiling it for you. Stop watching. And they go in there and they find the girl's tent. She's camped in the middle of Aokigahara, which is, like, incredibly dangerous. Like, she's literally, like, camped in the middle of nowhere in the middle of Aokigahara, which anybody, even, like, the dumbest baka gaijin knows is stupid, okay? So she does that, and she's like, I'm gonna stay here overnight, because I know she's coming back to the tent. She's like, totes my sister, we're like, total bond, because, you know, twins, bro. And their Japanese tour guide, being very non-Japanese, is like, no, abunai desu yo. We do not stay in the forest alone at night. I am going to leave you here alone, because that's how real Japanese men act. They just leave young gaijin women in the middle of Aokigahara by themselves. No, that would never happen. Like, no Japanese guy whose job was to be a tour guide would ever do that. If later it got found out that that's what he had done, he left her in the middle of the forest and she died, or like the elements took her, or just anything bad, like he would have to commit suicide himself for all the shame he would have to suffer. He would have totally lost face in Japan. It just... Obviously someone who knew little to nothing about the culture. Okay. And so why they're in there, like why they're in the woods, the thing that I started laughing about a bunch was she's in there and she keeps getting spooked by like animal noises. And one of the main aspects of Aokigahara is the freaky part is nobody hears any animals in there. Like nobody comes in there because it's so freaky, because it's so deathly quiet. Why do no animals go in there? Well, animals can sense this thing called death. Yes, they can smell it, they can see it, and they know if there's a place where there's a ton of people who've died, committed suicide, however, reach their end, they're like, yeah, this doesn't smell good. This doesn't smell good. Why is everybody dead here? This isn't cool. I'm not gonna stay here. I'm not gonna make a house here. I'm not gonna burrow into the ground here. Fuck this place. And that's what animals do, because they're smart, alright? They get the hell out of there. They don't live there. That makes the forest all the more spooky. It's legendary for that. Like, that's one of the main aspects of the spookiness of Aokigahara. There's no goddamn animal noise. Well, all through this movie, it's like, ree, ree, chicka, 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 hoo. And she's like, animals! So, she's going in there, and just like right away when she's going into this forest to look for her sister, here's the first things that popped into my mind. No search party. I'm not going to do a search party for your sister. She's been missing. The police called her in America to tell her that she was missing. No police. No police come out to help her at all. Yeah, that's probably not going to happen in Japan. No help at all from anybody except for one tour guide and one reporter who speaks a little bit of Japanese. Best plan? Stay out in the middle of the woods with a total stranger. Yes, at the end of their little exploration to the woods, she's like,
well, I know my twin sister's gonna come back to this tent, so I'm gonna stay here in the middle of the night until she comes back.
and the other dude, who's the other gaijin she met at a bar, who's like, dude, I'll totes help you if you let me make a story about this. He's like, I'm staying too. And she's like,
Okay, good.
and it's like, yeah, you're a foreigner in a brand new country you know nothing about, in the middle of a forest that's known to be super dangerous, that you know nothing about, with a guy you know nothing about, in the middle of the night, miles and miles and miles away from civilization. Sounds safe to me. I think you're gonna be fine. And from there's a little bit of a reveal at the end. I guess I'm not gonna totally spoil the last part of it, of what it evolves into at the end. There's kind of a twist when they find out what happened to the sister, and I guess I'm gonna leave that closed up and sealed off so that you can watch the movie and I guess kind of enjoy that twist ending. Guys, there were a few, I guess, although they were very tropey, they were very cliche horror aspects of this movie, they were done so-so. They weren't really that bad. Like, practical effects and computer animation were a good mix. I'll give it that. The only scares that were in this movie were the most basic of basic jump scares that have been done like 300 million times before. You have no empathy for any of the characters in this movie. You give zero fucks what happens to them. You don't know who the hell this girl is, and you don't know shit about her sister other than, yeah, she had some bad parts of her life and now she's gone. Brr, she's disappeared before. Brr. Wow, you really have a lot of empathy now, right? The guy, you hate the guys in the movie right away. You're just like, screw these guys are idiots. Like, they don't, like, worst search party ever. Japan is like a fantasy version of Japan. The Forest is a fantasy version of the Forest. It just kind of jumps around into weird stuff just to pull out all kinds of horror tropes, like, I should walk down this dark hallway in the middle of the night. Oh, I bumped into an old scary lady, but she has nothing to do with the story. She's just an old woman who's lost in the same hotel I'm at. Bye-bye, woman. I'll never see you again. See you never. It's just like that kind of stuff over and over again. You go through, oh, you're a sad girl, and when sad girls go into the forest, they see ghosts. So, of course, the first couple of people she sees hung, they come back and haunt her. I guess, okay, here's the good thing I will say is, I remember when I watched the preview, there's a guy who's got a bag over his head, which again, that makes no goddamn sense. Who hangs themselves by putting an executioner's bag over their head and then hanging themselves? You can look at pictures on the internet of people who've killed themselves in Aokigahara Forest. Nobody's got a bag over their head. Nobody says, oh, you know what, when people come to find me, I do totally not want to gross them out. Let me go ahead and take this leather sack that no longer exists and I can't buy at any store and put it over my head before I hang myself. Is it worth a watch? You know what? Watch it. Watch it. Go watch it. This director went to the trouble of making the movie. And it's not the worst horror movie I've ever seen. It's not like watching The Sand. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that horror movie, The Sand, or The Ruins. That was a bad one too. It's not as bad as, I don't know, but I mean, it's not really good either. It's your middle road, less than middle road. It's your below the middle road horror movie full of tropes, cliches, things that have been done a million times. Kind of vanilla scares, whitewash, January release movie. And it shows. On top of that, its version of Japan is kind of like a fantasy version that the director kind of made up in their mind. And the way the Japanese people act is not the way Japanese people act. I guess if you take anything away from it, enjoy the couple effects that happen. Don't believe that you've learned anything about Japan. And that's my final take on The Forest. Guys, have a good one.